Okay, we're back here. Just bear with me a second while I get my background image up. There we go. Share that. Okay, welcome back to our workshop, the 431st Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, May 5th, 2022. I think we're ready to begin the second part of the workshop, which is usually the Q&A, questions and comments from people that might like to engage. We have attendees here that we can allow you to speak on your microphone if you put your hand up, and then we can engage that function. Hello, Mr. Kesh. Are you ready for engaging people here?
Yeah, as usual. Sometimes the second part is better than the first part.
Yes, indeed. Well, we don't have any willing hands yet. People are sometimes a little shy to begin. But we do have a question from Katie, which is posted both in the YouTube and in our Q&A here. Katie says, Mr. Kesh, recently I found information about a new technology that is about to expand on Earth. They call it, well, she calls it MEB beds, but I think she means med beds, which are quantum beds made of plasma. There are experiences of people who go to dimensions 8 and 12 in the etheric. Have you heard of this type of technology, and what can you tell me about it? And that's partially why I played those videos. Some of them I was going to play anyway, but the question seemed appropriate, so I played all the videos that we had.
Yeah, medbed is a term came in sci-fi TV programs, as we said before. The people who use or have come up with this technology is partially our knowledge seekers in the background who have tried to implement. They use the word quantum from it. It's partially work of the Keshe Foundation. We know one of our knowledge seekers who was very close to us broke off with the Russians trying to promote this, but stays in the background, not to be known. That is what you call is a scientific, but not a scientific term, but it's a film. What I call came from Hollywood words of what we call a space, what we call programs or movies. The technology of the medbeds, what you call it, is totally different, and it's mainly in quantum physics direction. And we know a couple of our knowledge seekers are working in the background with a group of scientists to come with this, what we call the medbed theory, and the work of the others. But what you will see, the Keshe Foundation enhancement units and what we call flight system has never been seen before. It's not a knowledge that is in public, and it doesn't bear any similarities to what you call these systems. It's space level, highly plasma space level, and it's totally different game. We do not work on the understanding or present understanding of what we see with these technologies. When you create a dynamic system, even we've seen it with the Italians, and some Germans made these kind of things. And we saw with Dr. in Germany, and we saw Dr. Rodriguez made some systems with gases and rotating balls, and many of you made those coils, double coils, and hung them on the wall. When you enter the fields of created by man in these systems, you always get a reaction, and depends how, if it's in tune with your body or not. And I studied this very closely in the trials in China, where we did with some systems without people knowing, thinking what they thought they were doing, but in fact I was looking in another dimension in the use of the system. They were interested in one way and we were interested in another. How the soul will decide I had enough and how the physicality decides to change. And we see it, and Medbed is a fancy name from the television called sci-fi movies. But if you create a dynamic field, you will have interaction with the body of the man because it's a GANS, it's a magnetic field dynamic itself. How you feel out of it is different, but how you target it is different. Any other question?
Okay, we have Salamia in the YouTube says, could the 9th of May be the date of peace negotiation and not a new stage of the conflict? Let's send this wish in the souls of all decision makers.
What does that
mean? Do you think the 9th of May could be a start or date of start of peace negotiations, or
with what? With who? What are we talking about?
I think she's talking about the Ukrainian and Russian situation. That
Ukrainian and Russian situation is very clear what's happening. It's I think I try to keep out of this situation because we know more than you do. And we understand what's happening in the background. You will see the new movement, new actions, new interactions. It's you have to understand how this thing is developing and how the West is propaganda the way the Americans want you to see. And the propaganda from the Russians, what they want you to see. And somewhere in between, you see it with a neutral position. You have to understand, whenever we gave the work to actors and comedians and footballers, we always run into relation with bankruptcy and problems. We saw Reagan, and now we see Ukrainian president, which is a comedian. He is actually a comedian. He thinks the life of people in Ukraine is a comedy. He wants to make a laugh out of it. He never understood the power of politics, what it means, and he just played a game of what I call cartoons with his nation. A comedian should never become a politician, especially leading a nation. We saw the same thing happen in Liberia. A footballer became head of a nation, and the nation's going bankrupt. He doesn't know which end of the table is the head of the table or the bottom of the table. We've seen the same thing with a cricketer, Imran Khan, in Pakistan. He had to be kicked out of the office because he married a rich English family, and he managed to buy himself presidential prime ministership, brought the nation to its knees. Ukraine came out of what I call a comedian, become a leader, and they played with him, and he played his nation. He thought he was on the stage making jokes, but these things do not take jokes with the Russians. Forget about that is an Orthodox, deep Jewish background. This is the question which is raising now in the leadership around the world. how such a deep Christian nation has a Jewish Israeli state. Not that there's something wrong with it, but how was he put in that position? A lot of question marks about what is happening in Ukraine. And now we see in the background with our latest things coming up, Vatican has accepted the defeat in Ukraine. We might see the next step, which is a submission. You go to see the defeated, goes to see the victorious, which we most probably see under different disguises, Pope in Moscow very soon. You remember he went to the embassy, and now he went there. But there's a lot of angles to this situation in Ukraine. It's not just one. And we're seeing deliberate destruction, 50% by the Russians and 50% by Ukrainians themselves, because they are not Ukrainian. You have to understand where we see the intensive fighting, there are the mercenaries which were brought in. Estimated 10 to 15,000 mercenaries are in Ukraine now. They are getting paid to shoot. And they're getting paid in advance if they kill. So they don't care who they shoot. This Mariupol situation is about 1,600 of them trapped in there. They are from Albania, they are from some from Far East, they are from North Africa. It's a business game, but they don't tell us on that side. There is another 9 to 11,000 of them on the west side waiting, ready to get engaged with the Russians. This Mariupol situation you see going step by step is trained mercenaries. They come to earn money, it doesn't matter what happened to the nation. And they are blowing everything up. It's been given ammunition, do what you like. This Ukrainian situation is not what they made us to see in the West. It's much more deeper. It's got everything now involved in. They're testing the latest systems. The Americans are benefiting more than anybody else by it with the testing there. They haven't had time for a few years testing the new things and are failing. We have a bunch of the new, what do you call, drones backfired to themselves and killed more Ukrainian than anybody else. And then they blame the Russians for it because Ukrainian got all the faulty systems which they wanted to get rid of. All these gets paid by Vatican, so they're testing. Peace in Ukraine is a long way from what you call it peace. This will come when Pope signs the defeat of Vatican in this position. Because they're financing it. Every bullet, every mercenary, every wages is underwritten by Vatican.
Yes, I was surprised one time to see that the Vatican blesses the weapons that they send out. It just seemed like such a contradiction.
We're seeing this religious fanatic wars is worse than two religious wars. You know, with the Israelis and the Arabs, you know what they're talking about. They pray to the same wall. But the Christians, fighting Christians, nobody can come in between. There's something they have to settle.
I see that there's a news item in the last 2 days that the Pope is wanting to visit Putin. What do you think about that?
I've seen this headline, but our sources in Vatican tell us it's already been arranged. They have to talk to be able to do it. You got to understand, you have cornered, or the West thinks have cornered Russia, but we in the West will pay heavily for this job with our lifestyles. We've seen gases has gone up by 7 times in Western Europe. The Americans are trying to find new gas resources, coming to agreement in the background with Iran, with the gas resource in the Persian Gulf. They're putting pressure on Oman and Qatar to export more of the material. They want to ban the Europeans Russian oil, but the fact is this is a blessing for the other part of the world, which they can now buy oils, which of the, what do you call it, the Russian-based material. They have to change their filters. And it's in general, the winner in this war is what I call the Americans and the Russians. Both are benefiting by it. And the rest in the middle, they're paying for it. The shortage of food shortage will be up in next 2 years. You will see. We will be hit by colossal price increases in food due to Ukraine, Russia war. And the Russians have gone for the ports. This is something which a lot of you have no understanding of, because you don't look for the dimensions we do. These ports are the silos, are the bread baskets of many Middle Eastern and some of the Western Europe grain sources. And Russians went for it. The prize here is not the land, it's the product of the land. And thousands and thousands of tons of grain has changed hand under Russian occupation and it's become a Russian asset. Russians have already been paid for the occupation. And that's why they went for these ports. All the grains are moved to the ports to be shipped out. And they went and they took. And that's why they're fighting in the, what you call the port areas, because they can handle everything else, but railways are on the head, and to stop the guns and bullets moving, the ports are there because all the grains have been moved, it's sitting in there. Ukraine is a breadbasket of oil and grain for many, many nations, and they got their hands on it. And it doesn't mean it's going to be a shortage, it's just that there's another boss in the office, but the same grain is sold in the accounts of, and they'll never come back. It's become national assets of Russia. And as we hear now, even the farmers are encouraged to farm in the field. Battlefields is in the big cities we see, they want to show their life in other parts carries as normal, and they'll pay the works or whatever, the same as the Russian way in olden days to harvest the land. We don't see all of it, we just see a few pictures they choose us to see in the West. And this portrait, this map hole, which has been used, has a long history into the Second World War, as all of us know. It has many undergrounds, comes up kilometers out of the steel industry. All these mercenaries come and go through these tunnels. And Russians owning these properties for years, they know all the rat holes. This steel factory was used for resistance against Nazis by the Ukrainians when they were fighting Nazis, and it's well known. This has got, as somebody said, it's got more hidden undergrounds than the tunnels in London with the metro. It's not just hitting steelwork, it's a rat hole of mercenaries which came in to come up to hit, but they got trapped into it. And some went in there to safeguard their lives and they got trapped into it. Any other question?
Okay, we had a question from Jan in the YouTube chat here regarding today's teaching. Question is the field of the creator also going through a decaying process? If yes, then what too?
Doesn't decay. Does not decay. Even in nuclear technology, we call it decay is the wrong word. It converts to new levels. Decay, we have the mindset that it gets destroyed and rots and blah, blah. No, it just gets divided into different strengths. You still have the principle in the center. You still have the transition and what we see outside and ingoing and outgoing, we call it magnetic fields. Decay is the wrong way because it doesn't actually decay. It doesn't reduce in strength. It's a collection of the new strengths which can interact with the environment. And some of the fields which are not useful to both new entities when it converts becomes the fields which the environment can use. That's why when we speak even in nuclear conversion, we say when the neutron splits into electron atom, a proton, it's not just we always show some fields radiated. That's in the terminology we use it to heat up the water or whatever. These are the energies which are no use to both parties of a division. But they become absorbed, they become a food. And this is what we're trying to encourage knowledge seekers to understand this process, that you don't eat the proton, you don't eat the electron, you use the fields which are released by them, which is no use to them. And if man understands that position, you create a condition, and it's in the structure of the enhancement units, right? Enhancements. This is what we do. We keep on telling you we don't feed you, but we create a condition of the fields in transmutation that your body can accept as food, as energy, that it can survive. And the design of the new space units is that we tap into the universal energy every second. We develop the technology to tap into universal energy every second and feed back what we don't need. That's why we don't have a toilet. This is to understand the process. Nothing decays, rots or disappears. It just becomes amalgamation of new field packages and what is not needed as a field consumed. And in the nuclear technology, as I said, we rely on these fields which are not needed by electron and a proton in what we call nuclear reaction. We absorb it in the water, we boil the water. But now with the knowledge we have, we don't need to absorb it with the water to boil it. We absorb it with the water which is in the body of the man, and then it's used in the limbs by food. But the question comes in, when we go to space, would our body carry lymph? Would our body carry water? Or would the composition of the elements of the body of the man get rid of that, what we call matter states, or what we call the liquid state of the lubrication, as we call lymph? We don't have water in space, so body has to change to new dimensions, new ways of adapting into the environment. Many of changes will come over time as the man stays longer and longer in space.
Mr. Kesh, you mentioned earlier in our workshop today about the amino acid and what would happen in a vacuum condition. And you mentioned the vacuum of the body and so on. But it reminded me of the early days, let's say, of the Kesh Plasma Reactor Group, which was originally based on the vacuum condition reactors that you were working on at that time. And one of the first things that you taught us in working with such technology, when you mentioned the minus 10, minus 11 vacuum condition and so on, that that you wore gloves, like surgical type gloves, when handling the equipment that would be in that vacuum condition. That it had to be squeaky clean, basically, because the oils on our skin would evaporate in that vacuum condition and contaminate the experiment, basically, or could have introduce side issues and so on. And I wonder if you could talk about that a bit. It kind of struck me when you said the words, the amino acids, they're normally flat in our CO2, or especially the iron kits that we put together, but the CO2 kits, other kits that form the amino acids, they're, like you say, a two-dimensional layer, but in a vacuum condition, they'll open up, and it opens up to the imagination what could happen there. It seems to, like you're saying also about in the vacuum condition, lots of interesting things happen, especially the more vacuum there is. But yet there still has to be something there for the fields to kind of work with as well. Could you talk about that a little more, and about that idea of that amino acid opening up in the vacuum condition?
In a way, what we see as the amino acid on the top layer of the water is the magnetic field pressure difference between the gas water below and the atmospheric condition above. If you happen, maybe some of you noticed, maybe some of you always blamed it on something else. Some days you create a lot of amino acids, and some days you don't. Some days you see the water murky, but some days the water is clear. But some equipments you make a lot of amino acids. Some equipment you make don't make no amino acids. But one thing which you have not noticed, look at the pressure gauge. Look at the condition of magnetic field in that day, in that equipment. How strong is the field of the GANs? That maybe you get the amino acid above the surface, or the reverse, you connected it the other way around, and your amino acid is actually, you're making it, but it's in the water. When you work with vacuum systems, you not the normal vacuum systems, what I call chamber vacuum systems, where you see the totality. You see what can be done. Then you understand the dimension of the plasma. Sometimes when we worked on the high, what we call it, condensed field, the process is very simple. You have a chamber, maybe about 20 liters, and you run the chamber for some times till you extract most of the matter state materials out of the chamber. So you have what I call, as much as possible, matter-free but filled full tanks. When we used to run what we call the flight system, we don't run the chamber while we're trying to vacuum the system, because the ratio of the chamber to the system is it's huge, it's 100 times more. So what we do, we go reach to the level we want, and then we switch the system off. We hold the chamber. Then through the lines which are connected, we connect our chamber to the big chamber, and it sucks all the material out. If it's the first time you run, you have some gases you filled in to get, but sometimes when you are going for a second, third test or whatever, there's a plasma created inside the chamber. So when you vacuum, and don't forget you have a chamber, not only of a vacuum of the material, but you have a chamber of fields. There is nowhere in the universe which is field free. So if your system in the process of testing created a field which matches the chamber, which happens most of the time, you move that plasma into the big chamber as well. And then you see, because these chambers are glass front, we see like three-dimensional, what do you call it? It's a field, it's an entity, it's a plasma, I call it. One of the reasons we chose the word plasma and we developed it this way is because you see it. If you can hold it, if you don't turn on your chamber to vacuum again, these fields as a plasma you created in a small chamber, now in a bigger chamber, in some cases, they gather together. And you see, it's like an illusion. It exists. And if we don't allow to empty the chamber, and we run the chamber to vacuum while this is in, we always damage our systems, because the energy of this plasma, this three-dimensional entity, now has found the path through to what we call the system. And this is how we know when we talk about these things that because we see it. And sometimes when the energy created, because you have to understand, in tests, we used combination of gases. It's in some of the teachings, what gases we use. And we use some of these gases for a specific job. We create radiation through gases in 2 or 3 layers, not in 1 layer. And secondly, in our chambers, we have nuclear-based materials already embedded. So we create a very strong dynamic plasma nuclear fields. And because of the material we use to create these fields, we have a combination of the element and field energy as what is on the chips, on the microchips of the vacuum system. So when we release it, or we try to pump it out while the fields are still in the bigger chamber, they go through the electric channels to the chipboard, mother chipboards, and they damage them. They're literally, they are there, we don't see any burning, but they get plasmatically nano-coated. When we take them out, we see them. They're perfect. The chip is perfect. We x-ray them. We don't see anything. But when we start cutting into some of the chips, you see what we call plasmatic nano, layering. And the system is perfect, but now it's nano-coated. They become resistant to the condition of the electric current. And I've spoken about this many times before. Even when you use your MAGRAF system, I speak about the plasmatic nano coating the wires in the houses. You use the MAGRAF system more and more. This is how it comes about, because the system creates fields, and it's because it's copper, it matches with your wires and it goes through it. And this is part of understanding how we can put an amino acid, and then if it transferred into the chamber, you see it that now it has a freedom to take shape. This is exactly what happens in our body. The amino acid, due to the salinity and the vacuum body of the man, has the ability to take shape to become the cell of the skin, middle layer or top layer or bottom layer, or become cell of the bone or whatever. Our amino acid are not stuck like a sandwich on top of each other. They're in a vacuum, they're like a ball. They're stuck like when we go to the children playgrounds, they have these huge cages with a lot of balls in it, children jump in it. That's how your body is. There's a bunch of these balls on top of each other, but organized. This is why when you make nano coating, I tell you, put for 1 second just a wire to a power supply or a battery or whatever, that you reorganize. Our body reorganizes through electric currents within the body of the man and the heartbeat, what sits on the stack on the other. The body of the man is not just by happen to be amino acid and stack like what I call, you go to the doner kebab shops, they put flat layers of meat on top of each other. We are not created that way. We are not flat meats put on top to make the body of the man. We are magnetically, gravitationally exposed environment in a vacuum of the body of the man. And we are like balls, depends how much current it passes, how much field comes from the neural system, how much field comes from the blood, and how much goes out, that it gives a dimension, the cycle of the field. Look at your body and look at the size of the veins and the spread of the veins in your physical body. The upper body, bigger veins, big more information. As it comes to your extremities, fingers, and everything reduces, because you don't need to make those big cells. You don't need to confirm that kind of things. It's not just that gases. Everything has to match to create that condition, that it becomes a cell in a specific position. And when you transfer amino acid in the vacuum condition, which is in the body of the man, it takes a shape. It's a ball shape. It's three-dimensional, not flat. If you understand this, there's a lot of applications for this. Huge.
You mentioned blood, Mr. Kesh, and there's a question from Alexandra of the Brazilian community. In our blood are our records, emotions, magnetic fields, and behaviors. So the question is, why are so many people needing a blood donation? And what happens to the person who donated the blood and to the person who received the blood? How can these records interfere in the life of the donor and the person who received the blood?
Surely, when you receive blood, what you receive carries emotions and affects you. But our body has an adapter. It adjusts that blood to what it needs, the way it needs. And if it fits it, it keeps it. That's why you have different blood, types, and one doesn't fit the other because the body cannot, the siphon cannot transfer energies up to. When you see blood, the body immediately, through its in process, adapt or adjust the blood into your consumption in what you can use. And if you cannot do that, it becomes a foreign body and it can kill you. That's why you can't inject animal blood into your blood sometimes, because it doesn't fit. It doesn't transmute the information and the body cannot adjust it. If you understand this, you can do a lot of what we call transplants without any problem, because you change the position of interface, new interface, the understanding of the new soul, new body, and then you see how much it changes. The body of the man is a very complicated but very simple system. Do you understand how it works?
Can you explain in a simple way why do brain tumors occur?
What? Brain tumors?
Yes, why do brain tumors occur?
Same as everything else. You have to find out what has created that gravity. Where? If you look at some of the brain tumors, you can connect it to emotion. When you go to a doctor nowadays, it's oh, you got a brain tumor. But go on a study how and what that position of the brain when the original tumor is, or was created, to what emotion is connected. Oh, and then if you go back to the patient and talk about them, about that emotion, you'll see the cause of the cancer. Unless you get it by being hit accidentally, which is 10-20% of the cancers. And then because they can analyze it, they can understand it, you find out, oh, the tumor has disappeared or reduced. But it's still there, they can't solve it. At the moment, we are working with a couple of doctors who are, medical doctors, and they have cancer. And they are monitoring the cancer, and we advise them what to do. And watching them, how they change and how things go, how the tumors are growing, how tumors are reducing, what effects they make, and they are monitoring their own cancer. And we are learning a lot, especially from one of them. He's a doctor in cancer. And he wrote to me a few weeks ago, doctors are puzzled that I'm still alive, and they don't want to accept that the GANS technology works. With his cancer, he should have been dead a year or 2 years ago, he says. But with using the GANS, but he's monitoring himself, he's doing everything. He's an amazing doctor. And he says, according to the present medical books, I should have been dead a long time ago. But we still see suddenly the cancer grows, suddenly it stops, and then we look at another angle of what we missed in the process of what should have been done. And it's amazing how we are learning from these doctors about different position of and behavior of the cancer. They literally made themselves volunteer to test these things themselves, and they have access to everything. They do their own blood test every week. They do their own X-rays and whatever they need to do. And we see, oh, might have grown by 1 millimeter. But if you were not there, it would have grown by 30 millimeter. So still controlling what it is, when it is. And brain cancer has primarily, if it's not due to what we call evolution or through accident, that you've been hit and it compresses a point that it becomes a seed for the cancer. It's emotionally based. You have to find out what that emotion, where about that emotion, that brain tumor is, understand it, and then understand the interaction of the soul of physicality and the soul of the man, and then find a solution. They find a solution. If you understand the process of cancer, you can resolve, you can delay, you can stop, you can live with it. And knowing, understanding the technology of what we have and how cancer works, you can do a lot. But unfortunately, we cannot teach these anymore due to the situation we have with what I call demented nation of Belgium. We stopped all these processes, and many of you are suffering because of it. And we are watching it because we cannot get involved. I can help many of you to walk about many diseases. I was diagnosed with the cancer of the pancreas. And remember, if you see, I still have an enlarged liver due to that. But over the past 10, 12 years, it's fully managed. I don't even think about it. It's there. It has been through the process of, and even till recently, I could not eat certain things because of my pancreas will collapse. And you see this. So when you have a pancreas liver condition, you know it straight away with your excrement. You're critical, whatever. With the color of it tells you. So I even passed those points over time using the right process of the cancers for myself. I'll walk away with it. But the medical application of the cancer technology is so huge, and we can help many people. But unfortunately, we have this what we call criminal nation, with all this way the leaders work, that they stop the rest of the world to benefit by the technology, which is having many people benefited by it. You can literally instantaneously, now we have the knowledge to interact with the tumors anywhere in the body. You got to understand, even the tumors have a soul. That's how they get it. If you can interact with it, you can leave it. But why is there? I'm not changing till the guy changes his habit. He changes the state of his son. I'm not moving from pancreas, from prostate. It has to be understood by both sides. It's not a, what do you call it? Again, the medical application, the health application of the Keshe technology would have been world renowned in what the things we've done. We built the brain, we brought the blind, go back to sight, anything else you've seen. But it is the criminality in the eye of a pedophile king and his entourage. The father, the same as the son. We should have been able to help many of you with the technology we have. Many of you write to me, my son, my daughter, my child, my husband, my wife. I can guide you the way I guided Giovanni to build a system for his daughter to build a brain, which has never been done in the history of man. We can all do it. But as long as we are free, we can teach. And God knows how these people will die, and their agents better with us. There is no reason, if you understand the fundamental cause of the cancer, that you can interact with it through the technology, even through technology, through your emotion. Even the knowledge is deep enough that you can change the what we call evolution cancers. Evolution cancers can be interactive. You delay the evolution, or you speed up the evolution to pass that point that the body cannot cope with. both ways can work. But it's always better to go forward than going backwards. While we are in this subject about the technology, as we said last week and the week before, Keshe Foundation has started the teaching for those of you who are beginners or want to make the perfect ganses and how to make ganses and how to use the plasma technology. We have started workshops in Keshe Foundation LINS, and it will be once a month at the moment till we add other parts to it. And the first workshop starts on the 11th of June. Maximum capacity is about 20 people. One of the well-known knowledge seekers in production of gases, he's there, and he will lead the workshop. And if you go on the Keshe Foundation website, it's already there. You can book yourself for the workshop. It's a Saturday from 10 to 6 on the 11th of June. We're hoping the following week after that, we'll announce it next week. It'll be for those who do the pottery, and a week after maybe for the painting and the sculpture. And one of our long-term knowledge seekers, we call around us, will teach these things with you, and you can make your own pots and everything else for pressure or what you call sugar and what the rest of it, or other things you want to test. And Rick, I'll send you a link on the private chat. You can put that up. That's the link you need to go to book your place. If you go on the private chat where I communicate with you, I posted the link. You can go to the Keshe Foundation shop, and from there link up with the workshops and register. And if it passes the number, you'll be put to the next month workshops. Have you seen it, Rick?
Yeah, I'll put that up now.
There's a what do you call it, a fee of €350 for the day, and we supply you with the material which you need in the workshop to do, and even with the pottery, the ovens and the clays and everything else will be provided. And if you need to buy any additional material that you do with that home or whatever, will be done. We are hoping to have one of our knowledge seekers teach you how to do like a crochet knitting and making dolls and things that are embedded with the ganses for different feelings and emotions. You will see this on sale on the Keshe Foundation shop in the next few weeks. That is a new product line, and the person who makes them will run a workshop, maybe 1 or 2 workshops for those of you who want to learn how to do it. You can register for it, and we try to bring more technical teachings on this side. I have to explain again, the Keshe Foundation in the coming time will release the name of one of the leading agencies, hopefully for employment, to work with Keshe Foundation around the world. With the structures we are setting up, that this agency will be, hopefully once we complete our work with them, will be the sole way to be employed in the Keshe Foundations around the world. It doesn't matter which country you're in, to be employed, if you're a knowledge seekers or not or whatever, you have to go through this agency, and they do all the checking and everything needs to be done before you're employed by the Keshe Foundation. So if you want to start learning and going to the workshop, Keshe Foundation LINS, this is the place. And nobody else, anywhere else says we teach what is in LINS or whatever, just ignore it. It's not done, it's done by our knowledge seekers the way they've done over the years, but this is the way we control them, this is the way it should be done, the way we do it. And we try to expand the application of the technology that hopefully once you learn it, you teach it. Don't come to these classes that you just come to be in a one-day workshop. Try to share the technology and knowledge with others as you like. Any other question?
Well, that's good to hear, Mr. Kesh. And it's interesting, the pottery, painting, and sculpture classes. These are traditionally sort of in the arts and category more than science. And so now, as well as bringing science to the soul or to science to spirituality or science to religion, you bring science to the arts community as well.
We encourage you to do. Sorry, carry on.
No, go ahead if there's something you'd like to.
Carry on.
I was thinking I'd like to see an extension of that into the building materials industry. For example, concrete is one of the materials that uses a very large percent of the world's energy and pollution from the whole process. There's a new process, what they call bioceramic concrete or bioceramic materials to be used for building. And it seems like that ties into the pottery, which is a ceramic type material. You have these connections with the pottery people in China and so on. And it seems like a perfect match to branch out into building materials, which are stronger than concrete, last longer, don't have mold and other issues, and you can embed the GANS technology right into the building materials, into the building itself. And it seems like a perfect structure with that combination of the bioceramic, which is a different basis than the normal concrete.
We are in the background. There's some knowledge seekers with us now. They know who they are and what we're talking about. Keshe Foundation is getting involved and is involved in this field. And we have people who have developed new technologies which are actually coming to the, what you call, Lens Exhibition Center in a very, very near future, where we actually get involved in applying the technology in this field of construction. And I'm sure very soon, we cannot hide it, it's in a couple of months left before it comes out. We don't mention where and how, but some of the knowledge seekers in the background know what's happening, and we ask you please to keep quiet till it goes public, where it is, what it is. Keshe Foundation have been appointed as a honorary member of the board of the committee, which will be building 4 new cities in one of the leading Western Europe nations. And we've been appointed as honorary members to advise in the newest space level technology in hopefully every aspect of the construction of the new city. I'll be attending the one-day conference inauguration of the beginning of this work as the representative of the Keshe Foundation. And our technology is considered to be applicable by the people who had this to be in every part of the building construction of the 4 new cities, which is a brainchild of a man and is to receive the support of the government. And in some ways, Keshe Foundation can support the part of the development of this technology. We're getting involved in that kind of things very slowly. We are not going to people. People are seeing the advantage, what it can do. They're coming to us to do it. And the tiles and ceramics and concretes and everything else is part of the work has been done a long time by the Keshe Foundation. And we know the effects they have, the strength it brings, and the changes in the environment, does the absorption of the CO2 in the house, how it changes the emotion, and how we can use it for heating facilities. We're all getting involved in a very silent way, but it's part of what you supported us in the past 2 weeks, and we are still asking for further support. We are not finished financially, we still need support for some more. And the process is that way. we are getting involved by word of mouth. As I was told very recently, somebody from NASA, a leading scientist from NASA, has recommended other scientists to look and work with the Keshe Foundation. They want to join the Keshe Foundation. These are leading scientists from American Space Agency that are recommending other scientists to study the Keshe Foundation because this is a next step in the space technology. And when I received and I heard about the email and how they want to come to collaborate with KF, it's interesting. But we're holding back. We have to be very prudent and be very careful how we do these things. And we went out to you 2 weeks ago for the financial support of the Keshe Foundation for the time being till we can pull out of and get this program completed. And we still need that support. We have not finished. And as I said, many of you support us with small loans and big loans. And that allowed us to be able to take us to the next step to complete. And hopefully once it's done, you will see new dimension in the Keshe Foundation operation. And thanks to knowledge seekers who've been around and supporting us to them. Some of you gave us the loan freely. You just want it back when the foundation completes its process. And some of you gave us 1,000 and you wanted 3,000 or 4,000 back for it. And some of you gave us 1,000, said, give me 2,000 back. We all, because it's part of us, you take it from the foundation, we pay. We have knowledge seekers who gave us 1,000, ask for 4,000 back. And we still comply. Because it has to be done. It's for all of us. And we keep that kind of ethos. We keep our ways. And many of you donated 5,000, 10,000 as a loan to be returned, no condition. We respect you and thank you for it. But this needs to be done if you're going to the next level. Any other question?
Okay, we have a hand up from Marinez here. Marinez, would you like to go ahead, please?
Yes, thank you, Rick. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Cash, everybody. Thank you for yet another disclosure of another aspect of all these years of knowledge you give to all us humans and everybody else. I thank you. And in fact, what you were talking today, we were talking in Rick's interesting program yesterday about this universal force in the universal intention force, that when we create something, we can use that. I call it universal law. I think you call it universal order. And everything is just so organized by this give and take. I had a question today, because when you were teaching, I was walking. Maybe you said it, I didn't get it. That just talk about, I see the affinity law in everything, like the original fields, two original fields, they come together. One is ready to give and the other ready to get, and they create the whole thing and plasma and that. And I feel like kind of, can we say that it's the is there any instinct, survival, wish for creation in the smaller unity and or fields? And the second question is, does emotion exist without the soul, or it absolutely has to go where there is a soul?
What do you mean by that?
Like, I feel like a duality, and this duality looks like the harmony, instinct of harmony, or is it just by chance, by accident? And second question,
I
is
don't
there,
understand your first question. What do you mean by that?
like everything has the same pattern from very small to very big. So these are so much like a man who looks for a woman and woman looks for a man. So they feel there's a giver and taker, and they adapt to each other and they become other things. And for me, it's just one law, one order. Just the whole thing is working its part in this whole scene of universe. And then there's a question, is there a feeling? Is there an instinct if there is no soul yet? Because I think the feels
This
have
is
the
a
soul.
debate. Maybe I can put your question in a different way if I understood it correctly.
Please.
There is a debate in the theology and the debate in the world of medicine when a fetus is a fetus and when is complete as a life. It's that position. When is a field and when is actually a cycle of life. And when is the soul is created for it to become a fetus. It's just no structure to it, but all the orders are sitting inside it. Or what's going to be a hand, what's going to be a foot, what's going to be a memory, what's going to be the inherited things that you don't do when you're born and when the tooth are going to grow and everything else is still within that structure, doesn't matter as a fetus. But when does it become a soul? When the whole interaction starts setting up its order. And this is what we said now, the change of the position, where we put the soul and the physicality matches it. The children of Mitra will be born that way. And these will be looked after, will be brought up gradually in a different way than the present race of man. They're not, as they're not man, they are the same. But through the process of a childhood, we change the process. You cannot do what most of you or some knowledge seekers start just drinking GANs and that I don't do. You have to adopt the soul to become the receiver, not the physicality. But the physicality man has been in charge for billions of years. Is it will not give up its chain of command, as I call it. So we look at the new cycle of creation of the children of Mitra. Maybe to you is far-fetched, but it's the way it's going to happen. You have no choice. The choice has made and it will be done, and it has already started because the old way kept on killing, will not stop killing, because it doesn't know any other way to feed itself, to grow itself, to sustain the existence of the soul. The children of Mitra will carry the knowledge, the option, and gradually become a totality where they shall not kill, where they feed through the soul, the physicality, not through the physicality feeding the soul. This process, you have no choice. It has already started. But it takes time. It needs the process to be fit in. And in a coming time, we'll teach you how to do it. In a coming time, we teach you how to conceive children like this. It is not that I do this and I give them GANs, so I do this and that. No. You have to understand from conception to the maturity the process of creation of the soul comes first. Then, in the process, because the physicality takes over, it's got the mother as an application, will try to enforce that habit of the man to do, but gradually we teach the soul to reach out. We encourage the soul to reach out, to give more, that the child takes less from the what we call the physical dimension. And maybe in 2 or 3 generations, the children of the man will be of the race which will never kill. Will be of the race that when a fly comes to you, you don't need to kill it. He knows you have nothing to do, he passes you. These are not dreams. This process has already started in the race of man. And then you replicate, you enjoy, you learn. The child learns. It's like going to a nursery, the way a child shows another child how to play with this toy, but he didn't know how to play with that toy. The new generation of the man coming in touch with the other children through the dimension of the soul teaches the other child how not to. And the parents will take the children, you will hear this in an immense way, to the doctors. My child doesn't eat, but the doctor says, wait, it doesn't need it. My child doesn't drink. Is it dying? It's still playing. So, and then gradually we get used to it. In over 2 or 3 generations, we get used to, and the grandparents watch killing to eat, and the grandchildren watch, they take from the environment without killing. We have to go through this transition for man to mature. And he hasn't started. You have no choice. We brought this dimension into existence. And we thought for years this is going to happen. But it's not going to happen overnight. The child who doesn't eat anything and become a cartoon everywhere. It has to become, it has to be taught, it has to be nurtured in the society of the man, and gradually will become a part of. And then the next generation, and then the next generation, we uproot the killing within the structure of the thought of the man, because it does not need to. You find much happier society. You find a society which is in balance. You find a society there is no greed, because we're through that process of taking what they need from environment. They take what they need from the place, and when they don't need it, they go. It's like what is happening in many of our cities. People leave the clothes they need on a hanger outside. If anybody needs, take it. And start in Saudi Arabia, people put a freezer outside. I have too much. If you need, take it, but don't empty the the freezer. At the beginning, it'll be a mayhem for them, but this process has started. The beauty of it is we have Mitra with us, and she'll never make a mistake. She's a mother who cares. She's a mother who understands and has seen the mayhem in the race of the man. She's been there long enough and knows how to be done. When it's done through the culture and understanding, man will create the soul first, and from it will create a child in the physical dimension. And then he feeds it through the same process, and gradually we change. It has to be ingrained within our structure. Otherwise, it's just a fashion. Any other question?
We had a comment or a question from Hussein in YouTube, but it's in Persian. I've done a translation. It might be kind of rough, let's say. Let me I have to redo it here because it's...
Can you put it on the screen as it is?
Oh, okay, yes. Let me try that. Just a minute.
Understand it.
I'll put both the... if I can do it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let me just set that up. It's got to do with some poetic influence, I think, there. Let me make it bigger so you can see. Oops. I'm almost there, just a minute. Can you see that, Mr. Kesh?
Oh my God.
I can make it bigger if you wish.
My Farsi doesn't go that far.
Well, you can see the English, the rough English beside it there.
Yeah.
And it's, like I say, it has Iranian
This
references.
is poetry, I think. This is, I think,
Okay,
poetry.
I see. It's written backwards, probably, compared to our language, correct? Because
No,
it's
it
Persian.
is.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
you
start
do
at the
that right
bottom.
to left. You
So,
go to the right to left. Its translation is more or less the same.
but isn't it, shouldn't the student be first and then the master replies? I thought he was talking about you as the master, but he's saying,
I don't understand. He has to
Here-
tell us what it is.
here's the student's question. What journeys have we taken to smell the scent of Nastaran flowers? What dangers have we taken to drink the desert brines? To suffer this love story we have suffered. The master says, what trips have we made to ask the name of the unknown flower? What dangers have we taken to kiss the ashes we have suffered for Iran to become a good home? I mean, it's...
I don't understand it.
Okay, I thought
It's
you
a
might have...
poetry.
Yeah,
It's
that's
kind
why...
of like a poetry.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to bring into this dimension.
Excuse me, I think I know this person, and I think he has been banned from Farsi teaching.
I don't know. I don't know who it is. They have a reason for it.
Okay,
It's
well,
interesting. It's very interesting that how things are taking shape in many directions, and the many languages are coming into the Keshe Foundation, and it's amazing. I look at some 30 plus languages in Keshe Foundation knowledge groups, and some of them are very active, and some of them are interactive, some of them very inactive. But gradually we see groups building up. Russians are building up. The Portuguese have been heading it. The Iranian teams are the same. And the French and the Germans gradually building up in knowledge seekers, finding a home to share knowledge and to enjoy each other's knowledge. And it's very hard. This is what I always say. Unless you understand the emotion of the language, we just read the newspaper. And it's very, very hard, especially when I look at these things. I haven't read Farsi for nearly over 40 years. To me, I can join the alphabet, but even to read these things, you have to understand the present emotion of the nation, which we are not in it. As I said, when I went to Iran some 14 years ago, I am a foreigner in my own country. I speak the language, but the culture has changed. The emotion has changed. What we used to be is not. And it's the same that, as I said to Rick just before the start of teaching, you will see a large number of new Universal Council members and Universal Support Council members added to Universal Community Group. those who apply to be, and that's why we even brought cultures, what they call languages per nation, per culture. English, American English, you will see new German speaking Swiss, where we always have Caroline as a German speaking for the German community, because they understand German different in mentality than the Germans in Austria. And we see this evolution, new member of the Universal Council for English-speaking Canada or English-speaking UK, because we read, but the emotion is different, because it's different part of the world. This has a different understanding and different, what they call it, comprehension of the language. We'll see this. You will see starting of a number of new Universal Council members coming in, and those who've been inactive will be in a way moved for the new ones who are active to bring in to do, even though we rely on the soul of these people came and for other reasons, and they said at times, and they're not there to support, and we ask them to relinquish their place, or they're not there to even to ask. So we leave it open. We will see new members for Netherlands from the Dutch speaking joining the group, and there's about a large number of them will be added. The Universal Council will be strengthened, especially now that we are going through this transition time. And I was told this morning by Lisa that the Universal Council members would like to meet with the Earth Councils in a very near future for what is to come and what it is to be planned. And that is the first time, more or less, the very first time that the two meet to bring a new dimension to the work of the Keshe Foundation. As one, as these two groups will run the Keshe Foundation in the coming time. Any other question?
Salamia would be next here. Go ahead, Salamia.
Hello, Mr. Keshe. Thank you, Rick. Hello, everybody. My question is related to your willing and our wish of knowledge seekers and Universal Council to help now Mr. Putin, because he has cancer, and maybe we can help at the soul level to recover. And the condition will be to sign the peace treaty. Not only he, but also Ukrainians and all other nations. Maybe it will be a crucial opportunity today, these days. As far as I understood, he will go in the hospital for some treatment of cancer. And we know that the reason for his maladies, there are emotions. And if he will change emotions and we will send him good emotions, hopefully he will recover and we will start a new era of peace. Mitra will enlighten his soul and the soul of all dissident. What is your feelings, Mr. Keshe?
It is not a feeling. You have to realize most of, a lot of world leaders suffer from one disease or another. We have 3 or 4 world leaders who got cancer, not known publicly. We have princes and princesses who have medical condition. We have presidents. We have kings who have medical conditions that is not curable to the present knowledge. And this does not make them any changes. They still stay on the path of the way they were. Maybe by elevating their souls, they will do. In respect to Putin, Putin knows about the Keshe Foundation clearly. As I said in the talks very recently, Putin sent the peace treaty of the Keshe Foundation to Doma in 2015-16. But it was never followed by the Keshe Foundation knowledge skills who were there to do it, or appointed to responsible to respond with it and work with it. We have the Iranian president with the cancer, Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran, has had a cancer for a long time, years. And the position they have allows them to have the edge of science and latest things for them to be. Turkish president and his wife suffer from a deep cancer. The 2 or 3 African presidents are in the same boat. It's not unusual. They're all human in different stages. They have to handle their own emotion in what and how they got and where they are. It's amazing how medical conditions of the world leaders are hidden from public. But they all have a problem. It's not just Putin. Ex-German Chancellor, it was known for a long time, suffers from a very bad kind of disease of Parkinson. And when it came public, she stepped down. We have the same in the Chinese leadership. We have the same in a couple of South Asia, Central Asia countries. The presidents and leaders have cancers. And they have to choose how they serve, not us. And they have to decide how we can elevate their souls. We can reach to them too. Doesn't mean that they will change in the way, in the path they are, in what they believe in. Some people die because of their beliefs. And world leaders are not different. The whole humanity and the whole world leadership needs elevation of the, what you call, the soul. And we see the same thing around. Half of these world leaders, you are not aware of their operations and the damages and what they do. A lot of you are Brazilians and you know the condition of your president. They all suffer, one way or another, somewhere, for their families. But their mission is different than their physicality. They don't see the similarity or connection to one another. Any other questions?
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very
Kesh.
much.
I think that we will send, it's good opportunity to send our love to all leaders. If they will get healthy, they will create a healthy environment and healthy conditions for peace outside if they have peace inside. Let's send from our heart to them and our soul.
Thank you very much. Rick, any other question?
Yes, we have a couple of questions that need to be addressed. Like on the workshops that you mentioned happening in Austria, will they be recorded and available online?
Nothing, no workshops will be recorded.
Okay. And on the June 6th event, will there be a media gathering, or is this to be a test only?
It's a test only at the moment. We test. The systems are more or less ready in 2 weeks' time, hopefully. The test will be done. We start a test and then we'll see how far on the way we go on. We go out, those who want to be volunteered to be the first testers, the first what we call pilots, and the rest of it. We just gradually work to it and we'll come to it to test it with or without. At the moment, we try to keep everything in order to complete. You got to understand there's a huge pressure on the Keshe Foundation side, where we are forever evolving and developing. and even in the process of building the new reactors for space, we are still developing new technologies in it, and everything sets back things for a few days, for a few hours, for a couple of weeks, because it will not stop. This is the evolution of understanding the science and technology. We are getting ready for the 6th of June, and 4 units has been envisaged, and 4 reactors are full flight system are in the process of what they call it, this assembly and process of manufacture. Any other question?
We got a few more in the Q&A that I'd like to address, if we can still continue here. From Hassan, Mr. Kesh, why can't we remember what and where our soul was before coming to be created in this physicality and experience life on Earth?
Your soul is in 2 parts, part from your mother's side and part from your father's side. So you're an amalgamation of the memories of the 2. You are not a soul as a soul on its own. You are the beginning of that structure. You're the beginning of the making of a star, the seedling of that process. So when you create a soul within the womb of the mother, needs to, in a human race, you bring the, what do you call it, the sperm and egg together. Now you bring the 2 souls. The amalgamation of that creates the new soul, which is your soul. And then you inherit more than the, what they call RNA and DNA of the man. You will remember the process of the creation within the soul of the man. It's a different dimension. You will hear children of Mitra will speak about things that us as parents say, our child is crazy. But no, the way you remember inherently through your genes, this color fruit you don't touch, she knows, he knows what is the consequence of whatever is there through the souls. You're walking and you just pulls your hand back and you jump on it. Says, Mom, look, there's a snake there, you didn't see it. But he saw the soul of the snake. Your physicality was blind to it. We'll have a huge cultural problem with the children of Mitra, the new generation of the man, that many of our doctors will call them schizophrenic or there's something wrong with them, but in fact it's us not understanding man has evolved. There's the evolution in the soul of the man, and the physicality is to follow. And even the process of conceiving will change. Any other question?
Dan asks a question. We as a physicality or soul are made of a collection of cells, viruses, bacteria, and their souls. How much of this body or soul of the formed community are we?
All of it. We are part of it. We made it and it's made us. So we're all in it.
So when we say we, we're referring to the viruses,
human
bacteria,
race,
and everything that we carry along with us, basically.
Yep. You would not have been here if some viruses are not in your body. You see, we have, there is something which is in the background of the Keshe Foundation work, very soon we will release. Many of you suffer from migraine. Many of you suffer from hay fever. Many of you suffer from menstrual pain, especially women that cannot even walk. Many of you suffer from seasonal fatigues. Many of you suffer from depression of time. In Keshe Foundation, we have the solution for all of it. Tomorrow we can market a product that women with menstrual pain within 1 minute will not have a pain. And you know how many women suffer every month with this? 2 or 3 days. And we see this process of releasing technologies in the new era for the Keshe Foundation. And we allow new technologies to come in to eradicate the pains and whatever suffering was before with the new technology. But one question which I always ask is, would the new generation of man will suffer with any of these? Or all this was something we had before and it doesn't there. So what it is will stay in the memory of us, in the memory of our DNA and RNA and viruses and infections. But is there something we had, we know, and we don't need, but it makes us, is part of us, is part of the structure of us for the future. And this will carry on. This will not stop. And it's us and we are them. Without them, we don't exist. And without us, they can't show their work. We're part of each other. Pain, suffering, and this has been part of the life of the man, where now with new technology can be changed. How come many of you suffer from hay fever? I did, and I still sometimes do, but I know exactly. 1 drop and it's gone. But how does it come about? Why do I react this way? Years ago, if you remember, because according this time of the year, I'm always sniffing and suffering. But now with the technology, if it comes, takes in 1 minute and it's done. But it's part of me why I react to this situation. And what would bring in the next generation? Would the children of the soul of the man will have that? Why do we create so much conditions with our health without us knowing? It'll be very interesting to see if the next generation of the man who were created through the soul need to wear winter clothes or summer clothes, because through the soul, their body, they can walk in the snow as is summer on the side. Because now you work differently. Because you have to do this in the other positions when the soul travels. The temperatures are beyond what we know we can hold our ganses and our body temperature. And some of it will come in the shape of either forms of viruses or energy packs, which we call viruses. We have to open our eyes. We are heading for a massive changes, and it's massive. And we are learning and we are teaching, and we are developing that stage step up.
A following question from Hassan in that regard: how to recognize other members of the universal community if they're not looking like us, and how to start interacting with them, like at the time you talked in the Knowledge Seekers workshop with the hand signs to Obama and others. Thank you.
That was specific, and it was for a deliberate communication because they understand. And in so many ways, once you elevate to the next level, you communicate with the soul of the man. They manifest themselves if they want. And you feel it if you have that position, that you recognize the need of the soul, the need of the things, and how your happy will be, and how it brings you the position of understanding. You don't need to communicate. You do that with your children. How many times you pick the phone up and you call your child and says, I feel you're not happy, and oh no, Papa, everything's okay. So, and then they tell you what the problem is. It's much deeper and you feel it. I have that with my son. My two oldest sons. Most of the time I don't need for them to call. I call them and says, Papa, what's wrong? So, Papa, how do you know that you call? Because we feel their soul. We don't wait for that telephone call. The call is already made at the soul level because we have that kind of connection. And this needs to be expanded to more and more and understanding of them. And we can block, and we can open, or that we can allow it to extend to everything. But if you walk on the street and every man has a pain and a suffering and something, can you imagine what you're going to face? Give a handkerchief to that one, give a water to that one. You never get to your destination. So we have created that filter even through our soul. We see the souls, but we can help the soul to go. Otherwise, we never get and even never do anything. But gradually, as we evolve, these things will be resolved. We need to create a new generation of man, and that process is already started. As I always said, from seven to have beauty and knowledge. The knowledge of the universe and beauty is the beauty of the Creator. And so with that. We have no choice if we're going to leave this habit of the present time.
Okay, question from Peace Plasma on YouTube. How does working with plasma raise your spiritual vibration and make it easier to work with your spirit guides?
Oh my God, we are not that kind of organization. We have to understand. We have to understand how the fields within the body of the man works.
Well, what are people talk about spirit guides or spiritual guides, angelic guides and other guides, not in the physical realm, but as a some kind of vision, image they have, or sometimes they might have a physical manifestation or whatever. But it's generally not physical. They're spirit guides or of the spirit world. What are those? How are they? Are they simply aspects of ourselves, of our own essential self, that essentially the messages are from our own soul to our soul of our physicality to, and the soul of the physicality just interprets it in a physicality way? How do you read spirit guides? Is that something that is an illusion? I mean, in fact, you talked about everything being illusion as the first part of your talk anyway. But what part of the illusion his spirit guides, I suppose, might be a question. Hello, Mr. Kesh. I'm not hearing you there. I think your microphone up. I think it's gone, actually.
No, I touched it by
Oh,
mistake.
there you are.
Yeah,
Okay.
I touched it by mistake. I said, we, with a new understanding of the science of the creation, we don't need no prophets, we don't need no guides. We don't need to be soul guides, or we are there. We have to understand it and interpret it and see what it meant, what it is. Maybe we have, some of us, not maybe 100%, has evolved to a position of being able to understand the feeling, the emotion, and the work of the soul of the man. You understand? So we don't need guides. Ask yourself, what did you ask? What was your... You see, there is a very big problem, and many of us face it now, especially knowledge seekers who are becoming more and more aware of these things. You wish something or you want something, and you get it. Because instead of you physically working to do it, now you have learned to get your soul engaged. If it's good for me, what can I have? And then we say we have a spiritual guide or somebody guide us or something inside. No, we have to learn to trust in ourselves. In the body of the man, even today, we have a mechanism that if you wish a part of your body to be separated, you can do it. You can literally hack your own hand, your feet. We had to have it. In the olden days, in the time of when we were what I call porous reptiles, like the animals we have today, if the tail gets trapped between the door, they'll let the tail go and they walk off and they build an animal. This is within us too. We have this power to do. Man used to do it. When we were mammals hiding in the holes, if we got trapped with the arm, we used to chop it off by the pressure of the need not to be dead and not to be damaged or eaten or whatever. We have these capabilities with us. It's ingrained in our physical dimension. So it's the same with the soul. It's the same with the emotion. We have powers to, but we keep on saying somebody else done, somebody else do. I have a guide, guides me. Your guides has become what we call your conscious. You know what needs to be done. You have learned how to communicate with the soul and soul of physicality. And these are the things which we have gradually to, now we know the knowledge to understand the knowledge. And then how it is used. What it means. And we should be able to decipher that there is no whatever you talked about. If you understand the science of the interaction of the soul of the creator of the man, or the controller of the man and the man itself. Instead of you going and seeing what will be the condition if I go to the moon, the soul comes back and says, this is not, because you already, the soul is in touch with the soul of whatever, for you to have the information. You have no GPS, you have no weather forecast. Is it trust in one's knowledge of the soul and its creation? Any other question? Or shall we call it a day?
Well, I was just going to add that you always said to you like to cut out the middleman and go directly to the source, basically.
in a way, or you make your middleman of yourself or yourself. This is what these agents are.
Who needs a spirit guide when you can go to number one, you know?
Yeah, but some people make a spirit guide of their own that they have something to do. Okay, shall we call it a day?
Okay, sure. Yes.
Been there long enough. Please, we will keep you fully informed in our progress in what we asked you. We still need the help. He has not finished. We passed one stage of it. And be there to support us because it's the future of the Keshe Foundation. And at the same time, remember that these classes, if you are getting into the process of GANs production or whatever, how to do things the correct way, and you want to add to the knowledge, these workshops are coming in. We're trying to teach you to use the technology in everyday use. In the near future, we do the cooking classes with the Ganses. We do the what we call other things with the Ganses. We put these classes that you start learning how to apply for everyday use. Thank you very much for today. Thanks, Rick. And thank you for everything else.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Thank you once again for another Knowledge Seekers Workshop, number 431 here today on Thursday, May 5th, 2022. Let me see, for other announcements, we have the next public teaching workshop will be the testimonials meeting coming up on Monday, May 9th. And people are welcome to bring their experiences of the plasma technology into that meeting and let the world know how your life was improved by use of the plasma products. Then after that, on Tuesday, May 10th, we have the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace and Justice. And again, the members of the Universal Council will be present. And as Mr. Keshe mentioned, there may be many more members of the Universal Council and perhaps some new members also coming into that program. So we look forward to that. There may be some other things I'm forgetting to announce for today, but we'll have posts in the usual Telegram groups and other media. Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. Thank you to everybody for attending today and for your questions and comments. And we'll go out with the Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit music version, so we can do a little clapping and dancing to celebrate the progress of plasma technology. All right, bye for now, everyone.